there's one thing I cannot do on my own with self-publishing, which is having that prestige and reliability that is tied to, being linked to a big publisher. So I actually went to the biggest publisher in Poland I could find, the biggest and oldest, and that was the only publisher I pitched to. And I was super lucky because they went with it, and that helped me a lot. And then I had this big promotion in Poland where for 6 months all I did was promoting the book. It's actually surreal. I would land in Poland and people would ask me for autographs. I was like, wow, I never knew that this is what's going to get. I thought that you have to be a rock star to get that. Yeah. And then I realized this is cool, but this is not what I want to do. It's too time consuming. I don't want to end up being an author for life. Mm-hmm. So I kind of bought back my rights. I had to pay them to get my book back. And then for the US market and the free African markets, I decided to do a self-publishing because it gives me control over how much time I'm spending to basically promote my story. And I think what's also worth mentioning is that all the revenue from this book goes into a charity, which we launched together with my partner.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk.
So I'm not doing this kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I would say, so the charity, is that your foundation that I also see on your website? Is that the one you're talking about? Or is that different?
Correct. So, that's exactly this one. Okay. And that's also an interesting story because I wanted to make a statement that, I'm not making money on telling crazy stuff about Africa and I kind of being in the same camp of everyone talking shit about Africa. Mm-hmm. I actually want to take advantage of all those things that happened to me to say, I went through the good stuff and I went through the bad stuff and I have the legitimacy to tell you it's worth it. And I also wanted to make a statement that this is not for the money. And I figured, okay, let me find a nice charity to send all that money from the book sales. And I came to this concept like an investor, show me your P&L, show me, and I'm talking to a charity, what money are you spending on? And what's your ROI? Like, how many people are you helping and how does it change his life? And oh my God, it's like jumping down the rabbit hole. The way the NGOs are run, it's absolutely insane. So I figured I'm not going to give them my money. I have to build an NGO on my own. And it's going to be a small one because I don't have that much money. But that's actually not bad because the smaller the NGO, the more efficient it is, the more passion there is. It would be much better for the world if there were much more smaller NGOs than those huge organization machines that kind of, buy all those $1 million worth of TV ads scaring you with kids with big bellies and then you don't even know what happens to that money.
Yeah.
So we ended up, building our own charity, which is another great adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. So is it pronounced the Maya Foundation?
Maya Foundation, exactly, because my girlfriend's name is Jaritza, Marek, so it's like Maya, it's like cute.
Oh,
and there's obviously like a lot of things we wanted to make differently. Mm-hmm. Basically, because I come from technology background, we want this organization to be as transparent as possible using technology. We don't want to send any stuff to Africa because this is actually counterintuitive. If you're sending laptops, if you're sending food, if you're sending clothes, you're actually making local traders and local manufacturers go bankrupt because they are killed by the stuff you're sending. So keep sending money so the money can be then spent and invested locally. But obviously you want to make the chain of people involved in the money sending as short as possible because every additional person is an additional risk of money being stolen in a way. So, that's where the whole automation comes in, mobile wallets. So you know exactly what the money is spent on and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. And we decided not to help too many people. We're choosing very wisely who to help. And we're choosing then we're helping those kids as long as it's needed. So they become financially independent. So it's not like, it's like you keep helping them and you don't see a result.
Yeah.
It's easy to send 100 laptops and be proud about it. But we're kind of helping sometimes kids. The plan is to help them even for 10 years, for them to finish university, get a college degree, become financially independent. And then that girl, that boy can help back, pay back and so on. So it's a very long-term project. You can't really see those results very fast. But I believe that this is a healthier approach.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely wonderful, especially that you're keeping it local like that. Since you mentioned a mobile wallet, what currency do you use? Or do you use a digital currency or a cryptocurrency, or is it the local currency?
So right now we're doing this with a local currency. There's actually a company called BitPesa, which we use to send money between countries in Africa, which actually is based on blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So the blockchain is more and more aggressively, maybe not aggressive is the wrong word, confident, with more confidence introduced into intra-African payments.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are losing money on currency exchange because it's absolutely awful, but it's still worth it because once we digitally transfer, for example, dollars to naira in Nigeria, and then send it directly to the mobile wallet of the kid that we're helping, you can send it to a mobile wallet of a feature phone. You don't even have to have a smartphone. And then that kid goes to a shop and pays with his mobile wallet. I know exactly what he bought, and I have it on my list. Okay, why did you buy 2 Johnny Walkers? I mean, you're 8. Who told you to buy that? So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. So with your journey that has a lot of ups and downs, and I watched your TEDx talk about it. There was very clearly times when you were unsure of like what was going to happen next. So how do you approach fear and times when you're apprehensive, and how do you push past that and keep moving on regardless of circumstances?
Yeah, so for a lot of part of my life, I didn't feel fear. I would just, I realized how lucky I was post fact. But then you kind of realize that fear is normal, and what makes you brave and calculative and making good decisions is by knowing that you feel fear and still pushing through. I think there was this one moment in my life when I realized that I think I am pretty strong and I know how to deal with fear. Is that one night that I spent in jail. That was the moment when that whole, that whole drama around bringing me back to Nigeria to put me to jail in order to force me to sign papers and give back my company for nothing. I was stopped at the airport in Warsaw. I was flying somewhere to London, and they've put me to jail because the Interpol arrest warrant ended up in the system on that particular day. And when they were locking me in the cell, they were not sure what to do with me, but the guy told me that I'm most likely going to be sent to Nigeria on the next flight to be trialed there. And I knew what it means. At that time, I thought I had no chance of having a fair trial in Nigeria because everything was already paid for, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I actually had to spend this whole 12 hours, longest 12 hours of my life, thinking that I'm just waiting for the flight to be sent to Nigeria. I have no clue what's going to happen to me. And I went through all those 3 or 4 stages of griefs. First, you don't believe it. Then you get absolutely angry. Then you feel like your whole world is falling apart and you're just crying. I had panic attacks. I couldn't breathe. Then I, remember about Tony Robbins. He tells you to run around in circles. I was starting, making push-ups, then meditation. Then you pray to every god you ever thought of, Buddha, Mohammed, Jesus Christ, right. Everyone. And then you end up, you kind of realize that this is where the character is being built, and you start playing all the possible scenarios in your head, from the worst that can happen to you to the best possible scenario. And you kind of get used to them by thinking about them over and over again. You're used to them, so it's not as scary as it was. Mm-hmm. It's still scary, but it's not paralyzing you. And I went through the whole process of dealing with that only in my head, having just a cell with a trunk bed, and it was a moment that really changed my life. And long story short, I was able to have a happy end. Yeah. And I definitely am much stronger right now because I was dealing with that fear. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing is as scary now because you have a perspective.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'm also curious then how do you decide what projects you want to take on next? So I guess in the early days you kind of showed that there was an obvious progression from one to the other. But what about now?
And there was a lot of what's the word? Surprise, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So there was one methodology that I always stuck to, at least in the early days, is that I really don't like to fight with competition. I prefer to spend energy somewhere else than to be in the same sector with a company that tries to do exactly the same. So this is why, one of my early businesses was to build a marketplace for funeral services, because I figured if everyone is trying to build a second Facebook, none of those, smart kids from Harvard will think about building funeral business because it's not sexy, it's not cool, it's not something you can tell your girlfriend about.
Yeah.
So I was running away from competition. Then the second thing which I always stuck to was to be able to build the business around my lifestyle. I really like to travel a lot, so don't ask me how I feel now with lockdown. Also, my girlfriend, she's an actress, so she may be, for 6 months in a totally different place because they're shooting a movie. And if I want my relationship to work, I gotta be able to work remotely and do a lot of my job remotely. And there are certain type of businesses I can get myself involved in. I can't build a big organization right now and be responsible for 1,000 people and be a CEO because it won't allow me to work. So I always say now, my lifestyle needs to be protected first because I know what I like. I know what my personality is. I like to move from place to place. I thought it's going to go away with age. It's not. It's already in me. So I also know I'm pretty good with people, with sales, with marketing, with strategy. I'm allergic to Excel. So the old school approach would be to work on your weaknesses, but the new school approach is just double down on your strengths and make them even better, and just work around people who can kind of fulfill your weaknesses, and all of you together make a better person. So lifestyle first, personality first. I did a lot of understanding of what my personality is about. I think I've done all the available tests out there, Myers-Briggs, FIRS, OAD, you name it, to really quantify what I'm good at, what I'm weak at, and then build my business and people I work with around me, which included a lot of tough decisions. I've realized that on my past businesses, I kind of work with people that are just like me because it's so easy and so enjoyable because you understand each other so easy and so on, and it's fun. But you become blind to your weaknesses because your weakness is the same person's weakness. Working with a person that is totally different than you is very risky because if you don't know how to manage micro conflicts, you can go sideways and you will destroy the company just by fighting. But if you know how to micromanage those conflicts and troubleshooting and challenging each other at every stage, you take the best out of it because you prevent yourself from making a mistake because there's another person that kind of balances you out. So you see, I've talked a lot about my lifestyle and personality, and I haven't even mentioned business model because that's kind of comes as a result, and the money will come then as well. I like to say now that I like to be involved in a business that does not only make money, but also, is not harmful. Let's just put it this way. I don't want to use some romantic words. I want to make the world a better place, but at least I don't want to make any more harm. But in order to be able to make such a decision, you got to make some money first. So money was always super important for me. When you get to a level when you kind of feel a little bit secure, then you can also pay attention to other motivators.
Yeah.
In terms of choosing the business model you're in. So it was fun to build an e-commerce in Africa because you were the first one. And it's not like you're building another mobile app, how to steal your time, another game. And now I've invested in a solar business. And that's also kind of cool because you see that when the technology is in place, every kilowatt of power produced from solar, to put it in a very simplistic term, it's kind of like a less coal, less fossil fuels. It's not that obvious, but there is this positive change. So at least I like to think that way. But that comes afterwards.
Yeah.
So now I have a real methodology towards it, building around my lifestyle that I know I feel comfortable with, then finding the right people to work in, being in a sector that does not do harm, and then maybe looking at, okay, what's the exact business in this particular sector. So it's like from high level down to detail.
Yeah. Well, that's great. About how long do you think it's taken you to develop this methodology?
It takes time to think and make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I used to be fascinated by bodybuilders. And obviously being a bodybuilder is not the smartest way to live long and healthy because it's kind of destructible in the long term. But what bodybuilders have perfected, and they're absolute masters about it, is to really understand what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Because for them, it's all about micro changes and collecting all that feedback, what works exactly for you. And I think it's the same thing with life and business. You kind of have to test everything on yourself, business you're involved in, stuff you do, and see if this works for you or not, and do thousands